you know I don't do a script very well, but I got tied up. But I want to introduce my student, who was one of the first from the program that we have where we work with ACC and they come straight to Arkansas Baptist College out of prison while they're there. And this is with our partnership with Fellowship Bible. And Jason was one of the first students that came to the program, and we're so excited about what Jason has done by being a part of the program and as an ambassador, and I call him an alumni of Arkansas Baptist College. Jason Duncan, let's welcome him, please.
So I've got to follow the governor and President Hill. I'm ready to call it a day. It's truly an honor for me to be here with y'all today. And I'd like to thank the state representatives and the governor, of course. I'd like to thank all the faith leaders here. I'd like to thank all of you in the community or in ministry or a nonprofit who have made this possible for us all to be here and talk about this. It's truly a personal honor for me to be here because I am the least notable speaker you will have for the entire summit. So, if you've been needing to go to the restroom but fearful you'd miss anything, this is your window of opportunity. I'm not a political statesman. I'm not a pastor or a ministry leader. I'm not even a college graduate as of yet. So, but despite my lack of notoriety, there is a purpose in me being here before you today. I'm here to tell you a story because I have a unique perspective on the issue of reentry, partially because I'm engaged in reentry professionally as the Director of Admissions for the Exodus Project. And at the Exodus Project, there's three things that we do. We operate the Academy, which is a 240 classroom hour reentry program for incarcerated men and women in Central Arkansas. We have a transitional model, Hidden Creek Opportunity Center, which we've been operating and refining for a number of years now. And we have our network, which is a community for mutual learning and sharing experience around reentry so that we can get better at it. So I have the distinct privilege of working closely with students at the Academy, but that's only half of the reason that I'm qualified to be here today. You see, I wasn't always such a contributing and positive member of the community. In fact, 6 years ago, I was 6'5", 6'5", 9'7" of the Arkansas Community Corrections. And it's that story and how it led me to be here today that I'd like to share with you. So, as a young man, I chose fast living and the bad path. And while perhaps not entirely consciously, and certainly not seeking the inevitable results, it was most definitely a willful choice. Drugs, illegal street racing, theft, the whole gamut. That was my life for more than a decade. And we have an expression in recovery that this sort of lifestyle can only lead to one of three places: institutions, jails, or the grave. The only other option is to hit rock bottom, to come to the end of yourself, and to come to the place where you're finally ready to relinquish control of your life. And that's exactly where I found myself. After years of pushing the limits, I finally pushed my entire life right over the edge. There was a girl that I had loved deeply, but I loved my addiction more, and I lost her. And that was the beginning of the end for me. And in the midst of that drug and alcohol-fueled and quite spectacular self-destruct sequence, I managed to lose both my homes, I lost both my jobs, I alienated my family, I wrecked my prized race car, and I found myself in jail. Again. So there I was, sitting on the cold concrete floor of my cell, sobbing my eyes out like a 12-year-old girl. And I was completely heartbroken and distraught. And I couldn't understand why, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pull it together. Eventually, I calmed down, and out of sheer boredom and a lack of other options, I picked up the Bible, and I flipped it open randomly to Deuteronomy 28:30. And in that one verse, I saw all the recent events of my life. And I had a moment of spiritual clarity, and I realized a few things. That I'm not fit to run my own life, that there is a God who is active and alive, and apparently he had been keeping tabs on me. So I gave him control of my life, and I became a follower of Jesus. And then a week later, I got out of jail, and I immediately got high and got drunk. Now, there is an important re-entry application point here. I went back to the only life that I knew, and I didn't have anyone to show me any other way. I did change one thing. I started to pray, primarily for help in moving away from addiction, and I knew I needed to change my life, but I didn't know how, and I didn't know where to start. So I started thinking that maybe if I did one thing right, everything else would kind of fall into place, because that's how life works, right? So I decided I would go to college, and I applied, and I was accepted, and I was 1 week from registering for my first semester of classes ever, and I got arrested again. And this time there was no getting out. A felony charge that I had run from finally caught up to me, and instead of going to college, I found myself headed to Arkansas Community Corrections. Now here's where the story gets kind of weird. A few months into serving my sentence, I was told that there was going to be a new program tested where 10 men out of roughly 1,500 inmates in ACC would have the opportunity to go to college on the campus of Arkansas Baptist for real college credit. And surely this was the hand of the Almighty. A few months previously, I'd been trying to go to college as a free man and instead found myself going to prison, and now here was the opportunity to start right on time. So I volunteered, and I went through the process and ultimately was selected to be one of the men to pilot it. I completed a semester and a half while I was finishing my sentence. I maintained a 4.0 GPA. I chose to go to transitional housing, and I chose to continue going to school. This spring I will graduate with a BBA in international business and a minor in marketing. Now I could stand here all day and I could tell you story after story of how God has been directing my path these past recent years, but as I reflect now on these particular events that I've shared with you and how they helped orchestrate change in me, there are some key things that were happening in tandem that made it possible for me to be here in front of you today. I was a guinea pig, after a fashion, in an unprecedented partnership between a higher educational institution, state-run corrections programs, and faith-based, faith community volunteer programs. And through the recovery programs in the prison, I was given not only the opportunity to dry out from drugs and alcohol, but also the opportunity to develop the tools that I would need to continue life sober as a free man. I was given a foundation to build on. By being given the opportunity to go to school at ABC, I was able to begin building personal capacity, but more than that, I realized that I did in fact have an opportunity for a different sort of life. I could have a career. I could have a livable wage. I was given a vision for a future worth pursuing. And through the impact of the church volunteers who began to pour into me spiritually and instruct me in the ways of biblical manhood, I developed a vision for the type of man that I wanted to be and a network of other men who could help me become that man. I was given a noble calling, which was able to sustain me through the difficult times. These three things came together to give me something so powerful, so desperately needed, and something that I've clung to ever since. He gave me hope. So let me close with this. For what it's worth, from a man with no notoriety of my own, with nothing but a story, if you want to solve recidivism, if you want to put a dent in the overcrowding in prisons due to drug-related convictions, and if you want to do so in a way that adds value to families and to the communities by bringing restored men and women hope, give them a foundation for a better life. Give them the tools for a changed life. Give them the vision for a worthwhile life. But above all, give them hope.